and welcome again to the show. We are very, very excited. What's happening right now, if you look out your window, there's like 28 feet of snow out there. You don't want to go anywhere. You want to just settle down, maybe make yourself a cup of hot chocolate, and settle in and watch this show because it's going to be very interesting. And a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight is interactive journalism. It's the alternative journalism. This isn't your mother's local newspaper that they got up and read in the morning and had, you know, a couple cups of coffee with. This is something new. We're going to be talking about thepatch.com. And it's very interactive. So what I want you to do is get the number for our show. It's 438-2003. That's right. It's a local Ridgefield number, 438-2003. And join us this evening because we want you to participate with any questions that you might have. But before we get to that, we have a couple important things that I want to just point out. One of which is I think the economy is picking up. I was out at the Danbury Mall, and I see there's a new store going in, Forever 21. Now, if there's some men out there and you don't know what Forever 21 is, just ask your 14-year-old daughter. Are you
shopping at Forever 21?
I'm not shopping at Forever 21, but they're a wonderful company, and it's just a sign of the economy improving, that they're out there, there's work going on, and I'm sure they treat the people working there fairly, and there's no problem.
Just that we have to talk a little after the show's over.
No, I have a 24-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old daughter, and they like Forever 21. So we see that the economy is picking up, and that's a good thing, and we'll keep an eye on all of that. Also, there are a couple things. On this very show, you'll remember a couple weeks ago. Now, if we really had more money, more revenue, more production values, we could now cut to the clip where I asked about it. But I wrote a letter to President Barack Obama, and I said, "Dear Mr. Obama, I'm finding Obamacare to cause my health insurance for my few employees and my painting business to go way up. So much so that I've had to think about retiring two guys that have worked with us for over 17 years, primarily because health care costs have gone up over $5,000, and that's just for a small painting company like I have. And then I come to find out that you can get this exemption. So right here on the studio, I said, "Dear Mr. Obama, please give me an what's the word I'm looking for? Exemption to the Obamacare regulations." And I've come to find out that there have been over 700 exemptions issued by President Obama. And here's some people that have gotten them. The UFCW Local 731 Amalgamated Welfare Fund, United Food and Commercial Workers Union and Employee Local 348, United Food and Commercial Workers Local 1445 in New Hampshire, the Alaska Pipe Trade UA Local 367 Health and Security Trust. There's about 700 of these. Can't really call them companies. It's really more entities. And oftentimes what you'll find is that there's a correlation between those that are getting exemptions to the Obamacare regulations. 3 local chapters of the Service Employees International Union, whose political action committee spent $27 million supporting Barack Obama in his 2008 presidential election, have received waivers from the provisions of Obamacare law. Well, I think we can all agree it's time for me to write another letter. I think I need to point out that I was supportive to Barack Obama in his campaign, and maybe then I'll get an exemption to the Obamacare regulations, much like these 700 entities have already gotten. That's just some passing thoughts. One other thing, and Bob, if you're here, I'm going to need some support on this, because there's an event coming up that's going to be sponsored. It's a special mission this Saturday in Danbury to welcome a true American hero and his family, United States Marine Corps Carlos Evans, 1st Battalion, 2nd Marine, out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. This event is going to take place this Saturday in Danbury. And Bob, who should they contact?
It's on the bottom there.
It's on the bottom, okay. Anyways, we're going to get back to you on this, but this Saturday there's an event that's going to be honoring a Marine that's come back severely injured from fighting in the Middle East, and we just appreciate his service, and we're going to have more information on that. Okay, without any further ado, Al,
Yes.
This is your show in a sense, because you have found it vitally important what's going on with Patch, and I was wondering if you could introduce our guests and kind of set the table of what we're going to talk about.
First of all, thanks a lot for coming on. This is Liz Mitchell, Associate Editor for the Fairfield region of the Patch, and Ridgefield's editor, Mr. Michael Gibney. Thank you very much for coming on. One of the reasons why I'm a big fan of the Patch, and I love the Patch, is because I came from an era where, you know, when I lived up in Bloomfield, there was a weekly paper and there was a daily paper, and my family were big fanatics of reading news. That's all disappeared now. You don't see very many weekly papers. In the greater Danbury area, there used to be the Bethel Beacon, used to be the Brookfield Journal. There is still the Ridgefield Press, but there isn't a lot of media focusing on local news, and which is why I love the Patch, because I can read the Ridgefield Patch, the Bethel Patch, the Danbury Patch, and each one of those patches focuses on local news within that area. So I know what's going on in Ridgefield, I know what's going on in Brookfield, Danbury, and I think that's something that's been lacking in this area for a long time. I know many residents in Bethel were very upset when the Bethel Beacon went away, and they're very happy that the Patch is coming to fill in that void. And I think that's, you know, alternative or different forms of media only helps out everybody in the grand scheme of things, because, you know, Danbury's Patch is pushing the Danbury News Times to do better coverage on local issues. The Ridgefield Patch, for goodness sakes, is really pushing the Patch is really pushing the Ridgefield Press to do better work. So I'm a big fan of alternative media, and I'm a big fan of online media, because I think that is the future of media in general. I was telling Marty earlier today that we live in a fast food generation. People don't cook their foods in an oven anymore. They cook it in a microwave. They want their stuff on a smartphone or a laptop. They don't go out and buy newspapers anymore. They want their content immediately. And I think you guys are providing an excellent service, so I want you guys to come on and just talk about the Patch and what it's all about. So either one of you two, can you just tell me a little bit about what the Patch is?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
We're really excited to be here, and thank you for your feedback. Also, we hope more and more users come to experience Patch the way that you have. Yeah. What Patch is, for anyone who has not used it before, is it's a web-based platform to provide local news and information about your community, and that's exactly what we've hoped to provide in all of these towns in the Danbury area, focusing exactly on what's going on in those communities, in the local government scene, the schools. And the way it works is there's a local editor like Michael Gibney here in Ridgefield. There's one full-time editor in each town, and then you know, a team of freelancers who work to cover the local news. And we're in the communities, we serve the communities, we want it to be a valuable resource for people, and we welcome any feedback any of your callers might have, what they'd like to see more on the Patch. But I'm going to pass the mic to Mike over here so he can tell you what he's experienced in the last 24 hours even on Ridgefield Patch.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the word of the day really has been involvement for the Ridgefield Patch. Since about yesterday at 6:30, we had high schoolers just writing on the Patch nonstop. It started with one who wrote an op-ed piece.
Now, let me just back up real quick.
Yep.
When you say writing on the Patch, I mean, I printed up some of your, you know, some of the website and so forth. You know, it appears something like that. You know, it's the standard web page. You can click on. This one had, you know, there was a close of Interstate 95. Ridgefield Academy learns Chinese history. 5 things all about Ridgefield. You said it, baby, it's cold outside. Kitchen fire on Silver Hill Spring Road. Those are articles. They can click on that, and then they read the article.
Yep.
But what you're about to describe is the masses taking over the Patch, and how does that happen? How do they get involved?
Well, I wouldn't call it taking over. I would call it adding to it. I mean, that's,
okay.
We want them to do it, and I think it was a great thing. It was something that we really look for, and so it was an op-ed piece basically that this high schooler wrote, and it was about how midterms are really how the children are unprepared for them at this point because they've missed so much school due to the weather.
Right.
And So it was a pretty simple question he asked, was why should Ridgefield have these exams? And
because they've been so many snow days,
right.
They're not ready for the exams, and this was his place to express it.
Exactly, and it spawned an entire conversation through almost the entire high school. I mean, it went through on Facebook. It had almost 1,000 people recommended it.
Wow.
Which means it went through pretty much everyone in the high school. And so there were about 200.
So a lot of kids thought it was a doggone good idea to postpone exams.
It wasn't just kids.
Where was the patch when we were in high school, Al? You know what I'm saying? I mean...
Patch was on my blue jeans back then.
I know.
And there were parents chiming in.
Administrators.
And, we had administrators, Austin Drucker, the
Sure.
Board of Education. He made a little comment toward the end.
What did Austin say?
Patch. He thanked Patch for covering the event in a very honest way, and I had talked to him earlier in the morning to try and get a hold of Debbie Lowe, actually, the superintendent. And
did the superintendent chime in on this?
She did.
Okay.
And so it was just it was a community effort. And, at first, we were just moderators as the patch, just kind of watching the conversation happen, and making sure it stayed civil, and which, high schoolers don't always stay civil.
Right.
But these kids, I was very impressed by the way these kids handled this conversation, and really, took control of the situation. And, the school ended up canceling the midterms.
Wow.
It took about 15 hours.
15?
Took about 15 hours from the very first post to the cancellation.
So you put an editorial.
I didn't put it up.
Who put the editorial? One of the students.
The student put it up.
Okay, so is there an editorial page in the post that they can just put something?
He actually posted it as an announcement.
Right, it was posted as an announcement, which it was an op-ed article,
right?
Which is we tend to call that an announcement.
Okay.
But, it just chimed with all the students.
Okay, so he's sitting at home looking out at the snow, and he says, there's no way I'm ready for this, Western civilization midterm. We've missed so many classes. How can they possibly do that? He types that out, sends it in to you. People read it, and then they respond and comment on it?
That's right. Well, it actually wasn't quite that fast, because the students had been talking about this for a while. It was on the students' minds, but as a newspaper and as an editor, there's no way to know what's going on in the hallways of a high school until a high schooler writes to you, and you get this piece that you couldn't get with old media. I don't think. It would be impossible.
That's incredible. And then somehow the virus jumps to Facebook. I don't know if virus is the right term, but is that and then it jumps to Facebook, and then it goes from viral from there?
Well, it started on Facebook for these kids. They were talking to each other on Facebook, and when they're talking on Facebook, administration doesn't pay attention, because it doesn't mean anything at that point.
Okay.
But when it comes to patch, that's something the administration looks at.
Wow.
And so maybe we're a bridge from conversation to old types of media, and I think it's where things are going.
Wow. Now, we had a little preview to all this. You went to first you went to Bucknell University, and then you got your master's in journalism at University of Missouri.
Yep.
And you went to University of Missouri as well, but you guys didn't know each other then?
No.
Okay, all right. But is this, like when you go to journalism school and get an advanced degree in journalism, is this what the kind of buzz is in journalism right now? Is this where the future is? Before I asked you, is print really dead? How does that all work, and where are we all headed?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that print is completely dead at this point, but patch is certainly a buzz, and this kind of media is certainly a buzz in journalism school. They're all talking about it. It's one of the biggest hires of journalists right now, so it's becoming a very important. I'd say it already is very important. And what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I certainly don't think it's dead, but as I went to journalism school and then worked for 2 different newspaper companies.
And they're not hiring; they're cutting. Aren't they?
Resources are down. You know, there's wage freezes, and anything you want to try and do with video or online, it's sort of like in your own time whenever you can get to it. And I sort of felt like I needed to either get out or get online, and I found Patch, and I think it's been really great, the energy and the enthusiasm of the whole team, and we're going nationwide with this. So
well, just in Connecticut alone, you have Patch that covers, I'll do it alphabetically, Avon, Berlin, Bethel, Bethwood, Branford, Brookfield, Canton, Cheshire, Clinton, Danbury, East Hampton, Portland, East Haven. It goes on and on. Orange, Oxford, Ridgefield, Shelton, Simsbury. I mean, how many towns in Connecticut alone do you cover?
I think the total is 65 Patch sites, but some of them encompass 1 or 2 towns if they're much smaller communities. Yeah.
I mean, there's 169 towns in the state of Connecticut. You guys are covering 65.
Almost half, yeah.
I dare say there are not 169 local newspapers.
Absolutely.
I mean, let alone, we're going from, and let me just say, because Mac Reed and the Ridgefield Press is a institution in Ridgefield.
They do it, and they do a tremendous job.
They do it, do it. Excellent job, and I think financially they're very healthy. Their subscription rate is good. I think their ads rate are good, and it's a venerated publication in Ridgefield, and has been there for years and does a great job. But I don't think that they would have caught on to this, midterm thing in the high school. I don't. Obviously, it's a quantitative difference between slower, comes out weekly, and what you guys have going is a lot.
Right, exactly. And I think, I think, like I said, I think they do a great job, and we're just, in addition to it, we don't think of ourselves as competing with them. It's more just, it's more news for the people out there, and I think, what's wrong with that?
Okay.
All right?
Okay. Now this is sort of an interesting show because nothing is off limits here. We're very interactive. I don't know. Would you say we're politically correct or not so much? Or
yeah, it depends on the mood.
It depends on the mood. So we really the beauty of all this is no one gets paid any money, so they can't really fire us or cut our pay, can they?
No.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing that way. But here I'm going to get a little interactive here, and you tell me what's going on, because I have a theory on all this. I think the more information you have, the better. Freedom of the press is a beautiful thing. The more expression, the more opinions you have out there, the better. And any hint at trying to, hold back on that, I think is wrong and un-American and unpatriotic. So, you have an article in the paper. This is going to be a little transparent, but what can I say? I'm in this situation in Ridgefield where I'm running for a seat on the Board of Selectmen, and there's going to be a special election. So before coming over here, I go online and I'm looking up, let's see what they have to say about me. Oops, thing's falling off. I'm getting too animated. So I go on there, and then maybe you wrote the article, I guess. It was a fine article about the caucus and what happened and who voted for what. And then there's like 65 different comments on it. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because my wife is reading in these comments, and let me just read this one comment. And this is what they said about me. What's that?
You want to make sure you get every word there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, this is good. This is a really good comment. It says, Marty Heiser was responsible for the taking of an 80-year-old widow's home. Her husband was a decorated veteran of a Pearl Harbor survivor and bought their home after returning from the war with the GI Bill funding. Despite what was stated in the papers, Ridgefield was the only town to engage in taking the properties of others, usually used by foreclosure proceedings where they're given the homeowner a hearing and are subject to a judge's scrutiny. Marty Heiser went on to brag in the paper about taking this woman's house. Now, in times of great financial distress for many Ridgefield, he takes $26,000 to hold this election! Exclamation point. Shame on you, Mr. Heiser. Maybe it's time you get out of politics altogether. And that was written by
You're really animated tonight.
Blunder. You don't want to have this stuff in the paper. Now, for the record, I did not take an 80-year-old widow's home. I didn't. It just never happened. So, but now my question is, as a responsible journalistic outlet, these comments that people have afterwards can get a little, off the beaten path. And I have an answer, but what are your thoughts on that as well? on the comment section of your
Well,
webpage?
as an anonymous commenter.
They're not anonymous. She probably said blunder. That's who wrote this, blunder.
Right.
So that's how you can respond
Okay.
to. Just
So blunder.
blunder. Okay, blunder. Okay.
You know, I mean, obviously using very slanted language, we can see. But, I mean, can you tell me what was the situation?
I don't know of anyone's house that was taken, so I don't know what this person is talking about. Maybe Blunder could reissue something in your patch and
Right. Well, then,
clarify whose house I took.
You see, that is the time for you to get involved and comment right after that and say, could you explain this further? What are you talking about? And you know, in a very civil tone, and you would stay as the person, as if you were on the podium,
Right.
and you know, get yourself involved. You can't just watch people be involved.
I think one of the things about the comments, excuse me, is one of the, well, I do blogging, which is, and by the way, everybody, I'm a blogger. I'm not an online journalist. There's a difference, and online journalists get really PO when they be called a blogger. So I just want to make that distinction there.
Yeah, these people have their masters, Al. They went to school for this
Yeah, I
stuff.
went to school for journalism too.
Oh, you did too?
Big props to
University of
John
Missouri?
Brace and Lionel Bascom at WestCon, right?
Oh, WestCon.
Danbury
Okay. I
bred.
thought we had another University of Missouri grad.
But one thing I've noticed about the discussions or online or comments and stuff, here in Danbury, the Danbury News Times used to have an online section back in 2005 when the immigration issue was really burning up. A lot of inflammatory, derogatory comments were being made by people who were anonymous. And I did a lot of complaining about that on my website, and eventually the News Times caught word and they changed over to the topic system, and that didn't work out. So now they have a new system where you have to register in with a real email address, and you know, so if you put up a comment and it's like not right, they'll flag you immediately and they'll ban you off via IP address. Do you have any safeguards with the patch system if somebody uses derogatory language or inflammatory language? How do you handle those type of situations?
Yeah, we can. Users can flag comments that are inappropriate, but we also monitor it. And if someone is using inappropriate language or just totally off-color remarks, we suspend them as a user, and also we can suspend their IP address as well. So I think, you know, in a public official or someone seeking a public office is a little bit different than like a high schooler who posts a comment. We were watching that very closely. We really do pay attention to the comments that are put on the site, and would encourage you to write a letter or engage in the conversation.
Yeah, sheesh, you know, until this show, I really hadn't, you know, gone into the comment section. But you know, there's a lot of stuff there. I need to, you know,
like,
get on the stick here.
Like this
Blunder. I'm going to respond.
Like this.
I'm going to bring the thunder to Blunder. So we'll see how that works out.
Like this high schooler yesterday, you're totally permitted to add your own announcement.
Yeah.
And as an op-ed piece, talk about your positions.
Yeah.
Do it weekly. You know, I mean, get involved. That's what it's all about.
I think discussion is another great thing about that wasn't around during, like, I went to school for journalism back in the 90s, and back then it was like, you know, you have this many copy inches to do an article in, you know, you got to do this, you got to make sure it's compressed as quickly as possible. You didn't have comments, you didn't have feedback from your readers. You had feedback from anybody who was crazy enough to give you a phone call, which is pretty nuts back then. But now you have these online discussions, and that really generates a lot of traffic because you have a conversation going on about an article you wrote. And I think that's one of the great things about this new online medium of journalism is that, you know, all the rules that I learned back during the 90s, which is not that long ago, are all gone now. You know, you don't have to worry about column inches anymore. You don't have to worry about, well, you got to worry about putting out a good product, but now you get feedback from your readers about something that you wrote instantaneously, and it sparks a conversation. I think it's amazing. It's amazing. So, in terms of, you know, these discussions with the high school, and it generated a lot of traffic, and it resulted in some type of action being taken. Do you see things like this happening in the future with Patch, in different subjects? Like we have the budget that's coming up right now. I'm a big fan of education, and I keep harping on education because education takes a majority of a municipality's budget. I'm sure a lot of people are going to start talking about, hey, full-time kindergarten is going to be eliminated, or you're eliminating teachers, and you might have a situation coming up where the patch might be a vehicle for residents to speak their opinions on matters, and you might have politicians reading this stuff. And do you see something like that happening?
Yeah, we love when that happens, because I think it really shows us, what the users want out of their patch, and they see it as a place where they can engage in conversations with each other and kind of just connect with one another online. And it happens, in Ridgefield, it happens in a lot of our other towns when there's hot button issues, whether it is the budget or something going on in the school. So we welcome that. We want people to use the patch as a community resource and as a place to engage with one another online, for sure.
Yeah, how much, if you had to sort of break it up percentage-wise, the normal newspaper, standard weekly newspaper, has sort of a letters to the editor section. And by the way, Al, I don't know, you're like a freedom of expression guy. I don't see why you're trying to take steps with the Danbury News-Time to limit, the comments and stuff like that. Shouldn't there, just be freedom of expression in the comment section, and then let the buyer beware, realizing that when you're reading a letter to the editor...
But I do think that there's a problem. The problem you run into is when you have just pure anonymous. And when you have pure anonymous and you don't have like a gatekeeper making sure there's not any inflammatory comments, you might have something by Mr. Blunder that might be even more inflammatory about you, to the point it's like, hey, I want to sue that person. That's way out of line.
Yeah, but one man's inflammatory comment, like me taking on Obamacare at the beginning of this, could be another man, one man's like, what I would say rational response to an intrusion by the federal government could be construed as someone else as an inflammatory comment against, a heartfelt, compassionate program that's been long overdue.
Well, again,
so who's to decide what?
The person who should decide is the person who owns the medium. The person who owns the medium, just like if you wrote a letter to the editor with inflammatory comments, or like, you ate your baby, or something as wild as crazy as that, something so outrageous. And if you're like a private citizen, not a public citizen, where you have more laws to protect you as opposed to a public citizen, I can say anything I want about you because you're a public citizen.
And as a matter of fact, on your blog, there have been times when stuff has come up.
Well, I can put some more up there if you want.
Yeah, well, hey.
But there should be some safeguards, because that can affect, in the end, that affects you and your product. You don't want it to be some mosh pit of just like insanity, because those crazy comments in the Danbury News-Times assisted in calling Danbury like the armpit of Connecticut. It was just a bunch of loonies down here, xenophobic nut jobs. And it really did hurt the image of Danbury in general, because people who didn't know anything about Danbury went to where? The Danbury News-Times to find out about Danbury, and they read these crazy comments. So you have a responsibility as an outlet to keep the conversation civil and not let things get out of control.
Well, Liz, let me ask you, because you're like the associate regional editor of the Patch, so this is your area of expertise. Don't you think, maybe it's the younger generation, but they've become more sophisticated at how they absorb the information that they're getting from the internet? And they can clearly see on different blog sites or whatever where you're kind of in a wacky neighborhood and this is what you're going to get from these folks, saying that, and where you can get sort of legitimate news. And I think people are becoming more savvy. But what do you find? Yeah,
I think people consume their news in all kinds of different ways, but I think they can definitely tell what is a legitimate news source. And I think Patch has certainly, has gotten that reputation in a lot of towns that it is a legitimate news source, and it's run by professional journalists with, journalism degrees, some who have gone on to master's programs, and from
the University of Missouri, no less, which is
go Tigers.
That's what I'm saying.
But they take it all in, and we do monitor the comments very closely, and we have suspended people for being inappropriate, and we've suspended their IP addresses as well. But I think a lot of people who come to Patch come back because they do like the service that we're providing, and it's not just your local news. It features interesting people in your community, and it also is a host to some of these online conversations that people can engage in. But they do recognize what is the difference between a story and just a conversation that's happening in the comment thread.
Yeah, it's kind of
How did they come up with the name?
Oh yeah, it just occurred to me from the peanut gallery that people want to know, how did you come up with the name Patch? What does that What was the beginning of that?
Well, Patch was founded by Tim Armstrong, and CEO of AOL now, and he wanted this in his community. He lives in Greenwich, and he wanted something where he could find local news online, and it's meant to signify like your patch of grass, your home turf.
Right.
You know, this is all about your community.
And how many patch outlets are there nationwide? I know they had a map on your website too.
I think it's over 750 sites nationwide.
Okay. And I mean, it seems, because it started in Connecticut, have you sort of blanketed Connecticut more than other states?
The initial sites were in New Jersey and then in Connecticut, but we're kind of all over, you know, Northeast. There's a few in Florida, Virginia, Georgia, some in the Midwest, and California.
How long has Patch been around?
I think the first site launched in 2009. I'm not sure the exact month, but the company itself, I think, is about 3 years old, but sites started launching in 2009.
Interesting. And how do you guys make your money? You advertise on Patch? You can buy
It's an ad-based model.
And revenues are pretty good as far as that goes? I mean, I know you guys are journalists.
Yeah.
And you don't get involved in the dirty business side of things, and you would never let that, you know, interrupt your editorial prowess and objectivity. But you guys making some money at this?
Well, they don't tell us exactly, but we know we're meeting our goals, and you know, you'll probably see a lot more ads showing up on the site this year, definitely.
It's funny, like, you know, you see that Facebook, and they just announce their revenues. It's like in the billions and billions of dollars. And you're kind of wondering, like, you go on Facebook, and there are these dopey little ads in the corner that you always ignore, but I guess people really sell those things.
It makes money. It makes money. It definitely makes money. Actually, it brings me to another topic. Not only do I do Hat City blog, but I also own My Left Nutmeg, which is probably one of the largest progressive blogs in the area.
But even in that name itself, I mean, don't you, when you go into a website or a blog like that, you gotta
people will click on it.
It's a catchy name.
Buyers beware. Okay, sorry.
Now, you know, My Left Nutmeg is the best way to describe it is kind of like Daily Kos. It's a community blog where the community gets together and they write postings. You have that type of medium. Then you have a blog like Hat City Blog, which is basically me just spewing off my rants. And then you have other media outlets such as Connecticut News Junkie, the New Haven Independent, those type of mediums, which are probably similar to the Patch, but in a smaller scale. And what I'm basically saying is that there's so many different, there's a huge spectrum of journalism that wasn't here, let's say, 10 years ago. And it's just amazing how this is just developing so fast. And I just want to get your opinions on the state of journalism right now and how it's evolving from what it was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think people are recognizing that people get their news in different ways, and a lot of the websites you mentioned, they all have a very specific focus.
Right.
You know, for Patch, we're really looking at local news and what's changing communities. You know, CT News Junkie and some others are kind of looking at the political scene, you know, on a larger scale. So I think there's a lot of options for people, and you know, journalism is definitely changing. Even the year that I graduated college, they added a major called convergence journalism, and they, you know, are incorporating a lot of different types of media. So it's an interesting time because we're sort of in transition, but people are still getting their news from the newspaper and, you know, throughout the day checking online while they're at work or on their way home.
And what you find is the information is all the same. It's all the same information that you're getting. It's just the way in which it's delivered. And you know, people are still trying to figure out how people like it delivered. And that's,
and I think the delivery is changing as we're speaking.
Right.
This phone right here is only 2 years old. It's my first iPhone. It's a smartphone, and the content I can get on this compared to what I could get 10 years ago, it's amazing. When the internet basically started back in my opinion, like the mid-'90s, you had the old HTML nonsense. Now you have Web 2.0, where you can take one file and put it up on your desktop, and you can have that same file put onto your smartphone without any converting whatsoever. And everything's just coming a lot faster. You have video. You have interaction on Facebook that's going back and forth. I just think the medium is just moving so fast right now. You might get to a point where, in fact, you can do it now. You can stream live video of a meeting and put it right up there on the Patch automatically. And I just think that's just breathtaking how fast everything is just happening. And with journalism students, I just think you guys just stay on top of this stuff because, you know, the job you have right now might be a lot different 10 years from now. So,
What a question one of our avid viewers wanted to know is, Mike, give me a typical day in the life of a young go-getter journalist, and you know, how do you go about your beat? What do you know? Is it like the movies where you talk to the detective and you're at the crime scene, and you know, no, what is it like for you?
Well, I mean, I have to say there's not a typical day. Things are always different, but there are the things that I try and get to every day. You know, I try and get to the cops. I try and get to the fire and just find out what's going on. I give the chief a call and see if there's any, especially on days like this, or the emergency operator. Just you know, there's a lot of snow outside.
Yeah.
What are the problems? Is there anything going on? And you know, so I try and handle that, and I'm dealing with freelancers, trying to get them up to speed. You know, find out what they have coming in for me.
Now, when you say freelancers, what are those? Are freelance journalists that are out there that are working on stories?
Yeah, and you know, I have a few freelancers who bring in columns for me, and we're developing some new columns. They'll be coming in a few weeks, and so I'm bringing on more freelancers for that, and yeah, and that's a big part of the job, is because, you know, one person can't get all this content out, and you need people from the community to help out, and I think that's what also gives Patch such a unique voice, is that you have people from a small community, but you have a group who are collecting.
Now, I mean, not to get, you know, too intrusive into your lifestyle or anything like that, but basically to do this kind of a journalistic model, you don't need bricks and mortar, right? You don't need a building you go to. I'm envisioning you, kitchen table, pajamas, laptop, you know, starting, you know, a revolution at the high school. Hey, let's get out of midterms. Yeah, I'll vote for that. Is that, you know, part of it?
Right. Well,
I mean, the pajamas may not be. I don't want to, you know, that. Who knows? Privacy here at home.
But yeah, I work from home sometimes. I work from coffee shops, delis. You know, I
that's what I'm thinking. You're sitting in Starbucks with your laptop, and you could have an entire, you know, decision maker, influencer of communities, you know, over there in the corner with a laptop.
And that's the best thing, because I get to meet people as I do it, and that's what I found is the most important part of this, is meeting the decision makers in town and meeting the people who just live there, and you know, I think that's one of the most important parts of doing this, and you know, I've spent these last 4 months, I've met hundreds. You know.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, I'm a man about time myself, but you and Kira before you. You get around. You get to the public meetings, Board of Finance meetings, and you know, you're like the mailman. You know, and no sleet or snow or storm will, you know, deter you from getting there. No, I mean, I'm not just, you know, blowing smoke, but it's impressive.
No, and that's what I hope.
Are you his boss? Like, can you give him a raise or anything like that, or put something in his file? Or
I'll get him some new pajamas.
Yeah, new pajamas.
I don't wear them now. I wear them all day.
All right, Liz, let me ask you this, because I have sort of a thought on this, but the modern consumer of information. You know, do you remember when, like, you were taught to do research papers back in the day? They told you the Dewey Decimal System, and you had to go to, like, you know, find articles and files about stuff like that. With the internet, I mean, anything you want to know, you can just get to, boom, just like that. You know, I mean, I'll be sitting there watching a football game and going, you know, now where did Olsen go to college? I think it was, and you just, you know, Google it in your iPhone, and oh yeah, University of Miami, I knew it. And but the modern consumer of information, to me, I think matches up perfectly with what you guys are doing here at Patch. But what are they teaching at the journalism schools? What are you finding as far as, you know, the old way of going about things? Well, I have to wait till Thursday when the paper comes out, and what people are now doing with the internet and how Patch figures in on that.
I think we're finding that definitely, like I said before, people encounter their news in all kinds of different ways, but with the smartphones and Blackberries and iPads, everyone is checking in regularly with Patch. You can log on to the site, you can see a video on your iPhone, you can get a breaking news alert, you can sign up for them for the daily or the weekly newsletter. And you know, people come to the site throughout the day, we find, you know, whenever it's convenient for them, but definitely it's changing, and a lot of people, there are those people who just want to sit in the morning and have their newspaper with their coffee, but
there is something comforting about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Chicago, and I used to get the Chicago Tribune, and I know right where Mike Royko was, and I'd read that article, and he was, you know, a great writer, and you'd go right where the sports section were, and there's just a certain rhythm to the old, you know, printed paper. But I look at some of the business models for Gannett newspapers, suburban newspapers, and we were talking about this, how they're all, you know, I guess out of survival mode, just being bought up by these huge conglomerates. Right. And even then, you know, the Wall Street Journal online, the New York Times online, these are just absorbing folks that would go down and put their dollar down and pick up the paper from the newspaper guy. Is that what the trend we're seeing?
I mean, yeah, I'd say that the you know, I mean, small newspapers are having a lot of trouble right now staying afloat, and some have great tradition behind them and are enforced by the community, but you know, they have trouble making money, and that's
the thing. These guys can come into a community, open up their laptop, and, you know, start right away. They don't got to pay for printing. They don't got to pay for, you know, bricks and mortar, like I said, for offices, you know, rent, electricity, anything. I mean, it's it'd be tough to compete, that's for sure. All right, Al, tell me a little bit about the Barack Obama campaign in 2008 and how it used some of this type of, what do you call it, the new journalism, not to be confused with blogosphere. But how did some of this interactive stuff work? Did they harness that? Because people, that's what they say when they analyze that campaign.
Well, Barack Obama used, in my opinion, the same cycle that was used by, I think a great person to start with is like Ned Lamont in 2006. Mm-hmm. They had email sign-up alerts. You have, like, you know, you get press releases via email, and nowadays you get press releases via email, via Twitter, via Facebook, and you interact immediately with reporters. You know what reporters to talk to, and you make sure those reporters know that you're doing an event at some place. And once they're there, you make sure they have the Wi-Fi proper, you know, and make sure that if they need a place to set up their equipment, they got the stuff set up. Right. You know, and those accommodations make it a lot easier for you to get your information out to the masses. For instance, there was Chris Murphy did an event that I went to. I brought back the video footage. Right. You know, unfortunately, he didn't have a Wi-Fi, but fortunately, I had this little smartphone, and since I had enough room and I was all set up and ready to go, and I had a good 3G signal, I was able to use this to do a Ustream and go right to my website, and that's instantaneously. Wow! And the ability to do something like that with just this device right here, compared to 10 years ago when you needed like a satellite truck and wires and all that stuff, it's just amazing. So I think in terms of Barack Obama, politicians nowadays are using that model, which, in my opinion, again, came from Ned Lamont. It just makes it a lot easier for journalists to get information or just know where to go to get the stories. And again, you just make it a lot more accommodating for the journalists to get this information, and they'll make it a lot easier to get your message out to the masses. And I think that's one of the great things with Patch and these online vehicles, is because, again, the Ridgefield Patch is a weekly paper. Ridgefield Press. Ridgefield Press, I'm sorry. Yeah. Ridgefield Press is a weekly paper. Right. We talked about, for instance, your caucus that happened. Yeah. You know, how long did it take for the Ridgefield Press to come out with that article? I think it was a week. It was like a Wednesday night, and the press, you know, comes out on Thursday, so they didn't have anything. They're also online. And, yeah, they're also online. They had that article up, you know. Yeah. Definitely sometime either just before or just after us, so, you know, it was, they're online, and they can handle that pretty well as well. Yeah, see that young man is very respectful. I like that. That's a good. That's a good nod. Online, and it can use a little upgrading, but it's okay. But you know, you guys are built for online. period. Ridgefield Press is a newspaper that has a website. You guys are online, so your stuff is almost instantaneously, and you're catering to the online community. For instance, if you want to have a video of highlights of the meeting, you can put that up relatively easy.
The technology does allow us to get it out immediately, and that's what Patch provides. But like Mike said before, Patch can provide something a little bit different than your local newspaper, and we just hope people add us to their daily routine of looking for local news.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, it was interesting, even today I was hearing on the radio, who's that guy in Three Men and a Baby? The guy who's always, getting crazy on drugs and with prostitutes and stuff like that. Come on, someone help me out on this. It's Martin Sheen's son.
Oh, Charlie Sheen?
Charlie Sheen.
Okay.
Charlie Sheen was seen taken out of his house on a stretcher, and CBS stock went down because he's like the highest money producer. But that hit the web, and immediately there was a reaction to that. Now, years ago, something like that happened. You'd have to wait for a month for it to come out in a gossip paper or something like that. But everything is just absolutely lightning fast right now that it just comes out right away. Liz, tell me what's the future for Patch. Where are you headed? I mean, is this? You're one of the high yuckety yucks in the company.
I wouldn't say that.
When they're sitting there going, will you not be happy until you've taken over the New York Times and the Washington Post, and then taken over everything, or what? What's the future?
I think for Patch, 2010 was like our big year of growth, and we were shooting for 500 sites, and we have more than 750 now. So that was really huge for us that we were able to go into all of these communities. I think, we're still a very new company, so I can't speak to like the overall business plan for the company, but this year we're definitely looking to improve the model that we have and make sure that we're serving the community and being there to cover these towns and engaging people online and that sort of thing. So I think the goal for us, at least as editors in our region, is just to provide a resource for the community that they can come back to and find the news and information that is relevant and useful.
And what you have to understand is when Patch grows, the local editor, each local one, each local patch, the Ridgefield Patch it won't grow with it.
You won't all of a sudden turn into a regional.
Right. It'll get better, but it'll always be Ridgefield, and that's
local. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the most important part. And there will be more of them, and they will move faster and be easier to work with. But they'll always just be about the community.
Is Patch, what is it, Patch.com, or is that a publicly traded company? Do they sell stock, or are they growing?
We're owned by AOL.
Oh, okay. That's a good money source.
Good money source.
And are they looking to expand geographically? Are they looking to start going into more states, or just consolidate where they're at?
Right now they're going to just focus on the states we already exist. We'll probably add some more sites this year, but like for us, our region is filled out in Fairfield County, and we're just going to work on covering the towns.
Okay, and you've just been in Ridgefield for how long?
About 4 months.
And when you first came, did you have to look up on a map, son, we're sending you to Ridgefield, you'll love it?
When I first came, I moved in. As I was moving in, there was a storm happening, and I was covering it. I was painting and trying to run out, and but I was meeting people as I went. I had some help from Kira, who my predecessor, who left, and she left me a list of the people to talk to in town, and so that was very helpful. But you can't just work off a list. You have to get out and meet the people, and that's like you said. You see me at almost every meeting. I try and get to them, and I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. That's impressive.
No, real quick. With my website, I saw a great increase in traffic when I incorporated Twitter with my site, and also with Facebook with my other sites. What do you think about Twitter in terms of the importance of it in regards to getting out content to the masses?
Well, I'm trying to get better at Twitter, but I think it could be very helpful, especially with this whole high schooler thing today. I think they all use Twitter nonstop, and it really, I think that enhanced the story a lot. They were telling all their friends through that, and I used it quite a bit today.
I think it absolutely makes a difference. I mean, some communities are more on Facebook than on Twitter. Some are more on Twitter than on Facebook. So that kind of depends, but you definitely do see a peak when you post a link on Twitter to one of your stories on Patch. The traffic jumps, and you also, it's a really great way to engage with the community in another way. There's conversations that happen on Twitter, and you get story ideas from that too. So I think it definitely makes a big difference.
Like on my site, for instance, I try to stick as close to Danbury as possible on my site. Sometimes I'll venture over to Bessel, but on my Twitter account, make sure I watch the Bessel patch. Make sure I watch the Danbury patch. And when I see an interesting story, I'll retweet it, retweet or whatever you call it. So it'll pop up on my site, so my readership can see, oh, there's something going on in the Danbury patch. And with the Twitter, you have a link. You can just click on the link, and it'll bring you immediately to that story. In days before Twitter, you didn't have it. It's easy to just share information like that. And with Twitter, I get, like with any of the patches, I'll get an alert. It'll just pop up on my screen. I don't have to have the application on. And I think it just makes it so much easier to get content that way, as opposed to generating an email list or promoting your stuff out as much as possible. So just in my opinion, I just think Twitter is just a great benefit to online content if used properly. So
they had it's rather kind of mundane, but even this last weekend in the football game, the Chicago Bears quarterback Jay Cutler didn't come back into the game. I don't know if you saw it, because he had a hurt knee.
Brutal.
And these other, like Deion Sanders and these other former NFL guys are twitting like, they'd have to carry me off on a cart, and how can he do that? And they're like hacking on him on Twitter, and it became a huge story.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the leading sports center and everything like that. And that's just, again, guys sitting around watching the TV, commenting on stuff, sending it out there, and this whole just storm of information that's out there right now that everyone can access and everyone can add to. My gosh, I don't know. Makes you want to go live on an island somewhere and just kind of chill out and watch the seagulls.
10 years ago, you didn't have that type of stuff. 10 years ago, there was an internet, but there was an internet without, I guess they call it Web 2.0. There was an internet without Twitter and Facebook, and now it's like people go to Facebook before they check their email.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible how that medium is working out. And it's even cooler when, again, with the patch papers, I don't actually go to your websites. I wait for something on Twitter to pop up, and I'll say, oh, it's a good article. Let me check that out. Wow, that's really good. Let me just, retweet that and just keep the conversation and the discussion going. So I just think it's a great asset, and I can't say enough good things about the patch, because you're coming in and you're filling a void in some of these communities.
I'm telling you, Al is gaga about you guys. I'm telling you, Patch is great, man.
It's the best. It is.
You guys in Ridgefield are lucky. You got the Ridgefield Press, which is a great paper, but there's not enough on local news. I mean, he'll go out there with his video camera and sit there at these meetings, endlessly filming this stuff.
Nothing's worse than a low information voter. You need to have the information to make a proper decision. And I think in certain areas such as Ridgefield,
how are you going to vote for a guy unless you know that he stole a woman's house? If that information doesn't get out there,
you need to weigh in on that.
Yeah, you need to.
Blunder. I should just stick to it. And that's the funny thing. It used to be where you had the three networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS. Maybe you had, the New York Times and a couple other papers, and that was it. And it was controlled. And some would say that it had a certain left-leaning political persuasion. There were no other avenues. Now, I don't know, can we go too far to the other side where everyone can just sort of cherry pick who they want to hear from? Some guys, have Fox News on 24/7, allegedly. You can kind of groove to the perspective that you want. What would you say, if Patch had a perspective, what would it be? Although you guys won't cop to any perspective. Right down the middle, we just give you the facts. But what would you say is Patch's political perspective?
There's no political perspective at all. You've read the stories I wrote about the caucus.
It's very fair.
Do you feel? Do you feel that?
I think it was. I thought it was accurate.
All the local editors, though, do answer Q&A, and they do include their political beliefs on their bio.
Oh, I'll have to look yours up.
Check me out.
But, yeah.
Very open about it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, are there any areas that you feel are lacking in the patch? Like, there's much more than just like your hard news. There's arts, there's entertainment, there's sports. As somebody who used to go around to some softball games and stuff and take pictures, you put a kid's picture in the paper and the parents are going nuts. Are there some areas where you have deficiencies that you want to, do better at?
I think for each patch, it's just one local editor and then a team of freelancers. So we certainly try to cover everything and get everywhere we can, but we don't always get to everything. So in those cases, we're happy to link to other media sources, and that's why we say, we want to complement the local media scene. We don't see ourselves as big competitors, but I think probably the best person to answer that would be the users and what they get from the site. I don't know what you've...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only thing is that I can't always get to everything, and,
right.
and that's. But if I have people telling me and filling me in and just commenting on stories, I can always be filled with information that can be sent right back out. I think it's.
Now, let's say I have an event that I'm doing, and I want to get it on the patch. Is there like an event calendar or a bulletin board where I can put my content up there? And if so, how can I go about doing that?
Yep, there's a calendar of events on each site, and then users can also add their own events and announcements and their own photos and videos if they go to one of these events,
okay.
and then they want to show people what they experienced while they were there. So you just log into the site. You have to have a login to add something.
Your own account?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's free to set one up, and then you just click on events and add your own event.
Oh, okay, great, great. That's good.
And we're always looking to get more user content, of course. So if you put your video up there, we'll certainly we'd love to see it.
All right, cool.
We got to send them the show.
Yeah.
We should send it to them actually, you guys have promoted the show on the thing when I checked it out.
Nice.
Well, listen, tonight we've been talking about the online media, the alternative media. This is not your mother or father's weekly newspaper. This is online journalism at its best, and at the cutting edge is Patch.com. Liz Mitchell, I want to thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate you putting up with our, bloviating here. And Michael Gibney, I will see you around town.
Absolutely.
Covering anything exciting that's going on. Cat in a tree, you're there. Political upheaval, you're there. Anyone taking someone's house, boom, you're on top of it.
Exactly.
And that's a beautiful thing. I want to appreciate you guys tuning in. Join us again next week when our guests will be Chris Murphy and Dave, and we're going to be looking at an Obama report card. What was it with Obama? Why are we so obsessed?
You tell me.
I don't know. We'll see you next week, same time, and also on online Cablevision. We're on, all across the state. Just check your local listings. We'll see you next time. Thank you.